It is November 7th, and I will call, you good?
October.
Nope, October. Great. All right. It's October 7th. I'll call the North Kingstown School Committee business meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to recess into executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464 for discussion of job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected shall have been notified in writing in advance and advised that they may require the discussion to be held in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 4246581, NKESP Certified Employee A Leave of Absence Request. Item 2, sessions pertaining to potential litigation/legal advice and collective bargaining pursuant to RIGL 4246582, NEA NK Level 3 grievance, legal update on 25-071 P. Doe versus North Kingstown School Department - Providence School Department. Item 3, discussion of any investigation proceedings regarding allegation of misconduct, either civil or criminal, pursuant to RIGL 4246584, Employee B investigation update. And then for item 4, since we're doing that open, just skip.
Yeah, we won't be talking about that in executive.
Perfect.
Yep.
Can I get a motion to go into executive, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So we will reconvene into open session, and the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pledge of Allegiance, please. Oh, sorry. Roll call, please. Ooh, we're doing great. Yeah. Here.
Robert Case.
Here.
Jennifer Lima. Here. Megan Riley.
Here.
Sherry Kennedy.
Here.
Josh Furtado. Sadie McCann.
Okay, and the calendar, please.
October 9th, 6:45 p.m. CLAC, Central Admin Conference Room. Regular business meeting, October 21st, 6 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room. School committee office hours, October 29th, from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room.
Thank you. Citizens' comments? Okay, thank you. Tim?
Good evening. Dear School Committee and Superintendent Duvo, last week I stood here and expressed my concerns over our current busing situation. I, among others, have continuously been told that depot-style stops are the only option for a myriad of different reasons. You are ultimately responsible for providing transportation under state law. You have responded to me, quote, the Lashia Field location will remain the designated depot stop for our district and that neighborhood drop-offs are not permitted, end quote. In the past 2 days, I have come across new information that not only is there a stop currently scheduled inside my neighborhood, but that the bus stops at my house both in the morning and the afternoon. The bus makes a complete stop at the stop sign that is in my yard, around which I mow the lawn all summer long. In discussing the discrepancy with the bus driver, he graciously informed me that the stop at my location could easily be accommodated by reaching out to the appropriate channels. This in no way changes the fact that you are ultimately responsible under the law. This gross incompetence appears to have intentionally caused severe pain and suffering. Continued lack of accountability only further damages the situation. I will continue to demand a stop in front of my house for my children. It is inexcusable to continue ignoring their problems, even when all of the solutions have been provided to you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Pam?
Pam Pinero. First, I want to thank all my supporters who texted, called, and emailed their encouragement and support today. I truly appreciate it. I love this town, and I want the best for our schools. Back in May, I applied to be a parent representative on the Policy Advisory Committee. In June, I received a call letting me know that I would be recommended by the administration for appointment at the next school committee meeting. But that meeting came and went with no mention of the applicants and no discussion of the process. Just so everyone is clear, the policy states that the superintendent makes a recommendation for the policy committee membership. Since then, there have been multiple school committee and policy advisory meetings, all held without any public discussion about the applications or the process. I am deeply disappointed to learn that my name is no longer being put forth for consideration as it was in May. Over the past several years, I've spent countless hours attending both school committee and policy committee meetings. I've made multiple policy suggestions that have been implemented, including updates to the opt-out policy, class rank, improvement to the subcommittee's composition, measures to improve meeting efficiency, and refinements to redistricting language, just to name a few. Given that history, it's difficult not to feel that my removal from consideration is connected to the fact that I've often raised questions and expressed different perspectives from current members of the policy committee. This kind of exclusion undermines the very intent of policy work, which should welcome diverse viewpoints, constructive feedback, and collaboration, even when there's disagreement, especially when there's disagreement. For context, The original application deadline was May 30th, 2025. Public discussion about the process only began after I raised the issue during public comment on September 9th. What would have happened if I hadn't brought it up? And while Dr. Duva's leave continues to be cited as a reason for delay, the district has a very capable assistant superintendent who attends all policy subcommittee meetings, as well as you hired a covering superintendent for while Dr. Duva was out. The work could have continued. It is so discouraging that you chose to add the recommendations for the policy committee less than 24 hours before this meeting. This is a continued problem and pattern that truly needs a solution. The community has barely had any time to process the information and weigh in. I also want to acknowledge Marissa St. Louis, who I recently learned was also named in the spring, and who would have liked to have had the opportunity to sit on the committee. I don't know her, but she didn't have the chance either. The policy subcommittee is demonstrating that they do what they want, not what the community wants. There was no reason to go back out this fall for parents in a new application process. From May until now, this process has lacked transparency and accountability. If the goal is to build community trust and collaboration, this situation has unfortunately done the opposite. But if anyone for a moment thinks this will silence my voice, they are mistaken. I will continue to offer honest, direct, and respectful feedback, as I always have, even when that same respect isn't given in return. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the only two names I have signed up for citizens' comment. Is anyone else here for citizens' comment? Okay, we'll pass it over to Stephanie. Thank you. Moving on to routine items. We'll disclose that there were no votes taken today in executive session. Can I get a motion to seal the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then before we take a motion to approve the consent agenda, do we want to exempt anything from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll move on to reports. Building Advisory Committee.
Provide that report tonight. The School Building Advisory Committee met on October 1st. At that meeting we discussed, we had updates from our OPM and our architects regarding the Stage 2 submission and us moving forward. We also had a discussion and vote on the procurement approach for Woodford Middle School, and we voted to go with the construction manager at risk. And then we reviewed the Peregrine contract. As you remember, we approved their bid, and then we had an interim contract for the summertime to submit the Stage 2. And now we have the remainder of their contract from now through completion of both of our projects, the capital improvement projects and the new Woodford Middle School, and that's also on the agenda tonight for your approval. And then the last thing that we reviewed were invoices. Anytime we have any invoices that are coming forward regarding any of the school construction projects, we bring them to the Building Advisory Committee for review before payment. That's all.
Any questions regarding the Building Advisory Committee report? Okay, Health and Wellness.
The Health and Wellness Advisory Committee met on Thursday, October 2nd. The committee met to discuss upcoming initiatives and events, and some key points from the meetings include the Rhode Island Healthy School Coalition Breakfast, which is on October 16th. NKSD employees and several committee members will be attending this valuable event. It offers important insights into school wellness and health initiatives, and highlights and takeaways from the breakfast will be shared at our next Health and Wellness meeting. We also discussed the No Vaping Signage contest. The committee's in the early stages of organizing a district-wide contest focused on anti-vaping messaging. And details are still being finalized, and we will coordinate with school administration to determine the best way to implement it. Further updates on both items will be provided at the next meeting on Wednesday, November 12th.
Okay, thank you. Any questions regarding the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee? Okay, That moves us to unfinished business. Mr.
Can I
Case?
make a motion to move D under new business, parent appeal, statewide transportation for parochial schools to the next on the agenda?
Yep, do we have a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll be hearing the parent appeal for statewide transportation for parochial schools. This hearing is in open per the parents'
Parents' request. Yep.
request. Perfect. So I'll turn it over to you, Andrew, as far as procedure.
Sure, so this is, like the chair said, in open session per the parents' request. This is your opportunity, sir, to, explain your position to the school committee. They may or may not have questions back for you. You can decide whether you want to answer them or not. That's completely up to you. And then if they have questions for the administration, they may do the same thing.
Okay.
And once that's done, if anyone has any legal questions on, as far as the committee goes, as to what process and remedy, I'll explain that as well.
Sure.
Okay?
And if I unintentionally step out of process, don't hesitate to interrupt me, let me know, and let's bring it around to the right process so everything's neat and tidy.
Okay.
I did have some prepared words because I wasn't sure if I was going to have to speak in public comment. Can I have 4 or 5 minutes to...
Oh yeah, the time is, you can give us
I can
the...
speak slowly.
You can speak slowly,
My
yes.
wife Megan is also here, and my 2 sons, Charles Teakin and Phineas James, are here. You can't see them because I left them 2.5 miles away. But they're here because that must work, right? Kent Dresser, 371 Glen Hill Drive, lifelong North Kingstown resident. I'm a father, I'm a maritime professional, and I'm a doctoral candidate in business and virtual leadership at the University of Marion. More importantly, in this case, I'm a global subject matter expert in maritime transportation and safety. I help organizations worldwide build cultures where leadership means protecting people and keeping them safe from harm. Lawyers, underwriters, executives, judges across the nation and across the globe pay me for my professional opinion on transportation safety and leadership. The North Kingstown School District, already plagued by a long and dark history of inadequate leadership, mishandled fat testing of children, and a number of other scandals over decades, is refusing to listen to me. Instead, you're deferring to the State Department of Education, which, guys, unfortunately itself is plagued by leadership failures and recent ethical shortcomings. And you guys are all doing this to protect the kickback receiving from the state for insufficient transportation at my children and my family's expense. In leadership, there's a well-known and slightly over-marketed principle called extreme ownership. It was popularized by also slightly over-marketed Navy SEAL named Jocko Willink. But it's a great concept and it's a simple one. When something goes wrong, good leaders don't make excuses, and they certainly do not hide behind policy. They say, this is on me, and I'll fix it. That's what leadership looks like. That's what it should look like. And that is not what it's looking like in North Kingstown right now, despite what is perhaps well-intentioned efforts. When this district formed the interview committee to hire Dr. Duva, I was asked to represent special education families. I did so in good faith. I vetted him thoroughly. I gave him my trust, and I gave him my enthusiastic endorsement. Now, I've had months of silence, perceived concealment, certain inequity, and honestly, I think you guys are lying to me. You either don't know what's going on in your district, or you're just plain lying to me. It's a failure in leadership across the board. My first email, Dr. Duva, was to you in May. I heard back from you in September. And I didn't hear from Rob, and I didn't hear from anybody else on your staff. My appeal tonight, sadly, very sadly, in my opinion, is based on information I just received this morning at 7. It's a lot less friendly, and it's in a spirit of adversity. It's not in a spirit of collaboration and understanding, which is the spirit I would much prefer. My appeal tonight, it concerns a school bus which, though the state is driving, this committee is legally responsible to provide. And it carries my 2 children, 9 and 12, from Monsignor Clark School to a depot stop 2.5 miles past our house, down a busy, unwalkable road. This bus circumvents our neighborhood and goes out of its way to drop my disabled son, who has a profound speech impediment and cannot advocate for himself, off at a distant depot. And then we find out today that that bus leaves the parking lot and goes straight to my house. And it drops someone off at Glen Hill and Douglas Drive. That is 25 feet from the east border of my property. And I've been told by Dr. Duva and Michelle many times that there was no way we could stop in your neighborhood. And you've lied to me. And you've concealed it. I've asked for public records on this, and you didn't give me the records, and nor did the state. So, like, at what point do I stop being nice, and what point do I start coming for your jobs? That's not unreasonable at this point. You know, but you choose not to acknowledge that this responsibility ultimately lies with you. That's what Rhode Island general law says. You know that there is a student being driven straight to our neighborhood. You know that one of my children has a disability. You know that the transportation changes here that I, in a spirit of cooperation, emailed about last week and asked for just a simple grandfathering that we could eventually get rid of. You knew that that was a profound case of inequitable estoppel. You didn't care. And, you know, as great as each one of you are individually, and I know all of you, and I think you're lovely people, collectively, as a group, your actions are terrible. What you're producing is wrong. It's not a matter of convenience or efficiency. I work in my home office. Yes, I'm there every afternoon, and yes, I can do this, thank God. There's a lot of people that are working 2 jobs to send their kids to Catholic school. You don't care. This is not a matter of convenience. Folks, you voted for this. This is a matter of negligent supervision. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not a crazy PTO mom. I'm a legal subject matter expert. This is negligent supervision. It's breach of duty. It's discrimination. But worse, it's a gross and intentional custodial interference by both you and the state. It's not just the state. Custodial interference. You voted for it. Your district is getting paid for your custodial interference. I understand your design is the best of intentions, but it's not working. I shouldn't have to write multiple emails over 6 months, attend multiple school committees for my children to receive basic, sufficient, equitable transportation in a town that I've lived in my entire life. I should not have your transportation director call me and offer to help while asking me, I see your house is for sale, are you conveniently moving out of the district? If you could put that much effort into finding out what I'm doing, you ought to be able to put that much effort into finding out why the state can't get a bus to stop or let my kids get on a place where it's already stopping. You know, I've never done anything to hurt anybody in this room. Even when I was involved in politics. What I should hear is simple. Mr. Dresser, we are very sorry, and we will fix this right now. Meanwhile, it gets better and better with every layer of the onion, guys, and I will keep peeling. Now you're collecting kickbacks. On my back. I'm earning your kickback for you because I'm driving to pick up my disabled child in my car with my time, where I should be talking to judges and lawyers and underwriters about transportation safety. That's not equity, guys. That is literally exploitation. You're getting paid for my driving around, or my wife leaving Citizens having to drive down from Johnston if I have a deposition or a meeting. Look, let's be plain. If this were someone else's child, and I used my car to go pick them up, and I left them in an unauthorized spot, I'd be arrested. John Urban would be down here arresting me for kidnapping right now. You guys are doing it every day, and for some reason the rules doesn't apply to you. My grandparents would call that being too big for your britches. And unfortunately, when a government agency does that, as a citizen, I have an obligation to call you out. Because that's how we keep countries free. And that's how we keep our kids safe and protected. So, look, anybody here that knew that child was being picked up in my neighborhood, it didn't help me, or didn't tell me, or didn't do anything, just quit. or just be investigated and you guys fire them. That was completely uncalled for. 50 years in this town, and I have never seen anything so grotesque as lying to me and discriminating against my child that can't talk. Driving a special education student and his brother past their neighborhood into a parking lot 2.5 miles from their home is not sufficient transportation. That is supplemented transportation. It is supplemented by me with my time, my car, my fuel, my money. It is worse custodial interference. It's aggravated. And you voted for it. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank God.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Dresser?
Could I add some friendly insight that might be helpful, or have you heard enough of me? I can understand if that was
your
enough.
time.
Look, for years, you provided transportation home from Monsignor Clark. I explained that in an email. And I haven't asked you to keep doing it forever. I understand you want to stop it. I only asked you to grandfather in the people that made very costly decisions and huge family life, real estate, and work decisions based on a system that you've been providing for decades. So that's where the equitable estoppel comes in. Now, I'm sorry. I'm not suggesting that anybody here is nefarious. I don't think you are. Some of you might be. I think you're doing a great job. But look at the optics. You've hired the transportation director from Jamestown. And in his first year working here, he's implemented a new system that's cozied up with the corrupt state of Rhode Island, that's excluding some of his students that you've been transporting for decades, and you're getting a kickback. Sorry, I'm not suggesting it's nefarious, but the optics alone are really, really bad, and they landed in my lap.
Any questions for Mr. Dresser? I just had one.
Yeah.
I tried to read every email that you sent, so
Thank you.
forgive me if I missed it.
I know there are a lot. My wife would agree.
No worries. I just wanted to make sure. So could you just clarify for me, before the change for North Kingstown to using statewide, where the students were picked up or dropped off?
I can.
Because I tried to follow that string, but I want to just get some clarification on what it looked like versus what it looks like now.
The town was participating in depot-style busing for Monsignor Clark to a partial extent.
Okay.
So the morning bus was picked up at Wickford Middle School, and it was fairly early in the morning, and the kids would be sent to Monsignor Clark. Fine, like that's a lot easier pill for most families to swallow. We drop our children off at 8:15, and we go to work. That's fine, and we're saving the town, I'm sure, many $1,000s by doing so. The chafe was when they were being brought home. I know you don't care about my convenience, and I know that's not your role, but think of it this way. If I asked every teacher, every administrator, every policeman, every fireman, if all of them had to stop working at 2 o'clock to go pick up their kids, this town would crumble. But you're asking the private sector to do that, and you're benefiting from it.
So sorry, just to clarify. So in the morning, students that were going to Monsignor Clark last year were at a depot stop at Wickford Middle School. In the
for many
afternoon,
students.
what was the...
Bus 29 would come by Monsignor Clark, or bus 4 sometimes.
Mhm.
Those buses would go to Monsignor Clark, and then they would corral also at Prout, pick up those students, and they would drop them off at home.
So there was no depot stop in the afternoon, there was only a depot stop in the morning?
Correct.
Okay. So they did each individual student, or were there like bus stops like we have for...
Yeah, it was just like just like the kids next door get dropped off in front of their house, mine get dropped off in front of ours. I think, because they have to drive down that road anyway, if they dropped them off the top of the neighborhood from some efficiency.
Right, but it was at
that's
each
fine.
individual house.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
But thank you for clarifying.
But my son was on that bus. It wasn't for all students.
And so that's what I think. I know they
No,
stopped.
I'm just asking for your personal family situation. What
They
you
stopped
were
in front of the
used to
house.
last
and,
year versus what
yeah,
you were...
and they stopped in front of the Conrad's house.
Yeah.
They stopped in front of our house, and
Okay.
they stopped in front of the Spears house.
And then...
Erin, on
Yep.
page 108, it actually recaps all the
Perfect.
charter schools and the private Catholic schools,
Yep.
what it was
Yeah.
last year.
Yep.
And
Oh,
what
I
it
saw
is
that.
this
I
year.
just wanted to
yeah,
see
just
what
to kind
it
of like
is.
can kind
Yeah.
of show you.
Yep.
And I do think I got this point across, and it is nuanced, but it is fair that, look, this is a regional school. It's not a parochial school. It was chartered in a spirit of collaboration amongst many districts because there are parents that live in your district that want a Catholic education and they want their children educated in the Catholic tradition. I don't know if you know this, but a little unknown fact is that Rhode Island has more Catholics per capita than any other state in the Union. So it's not unreasonable that many of us, including some of your members, want to educate our children in the Catholic intellectual tradition. We're not asking for a lot. We're saving you a lot of money. All we want is a bus ride home. And I've got nothing but, like, I've never hit my head on a wall with this group like that before. I don't ask for much. But I do ask for people to do the right thing.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question. Any
Okay.
other questions from the committee? Okay, so what we usually,
Can we make comments or just questions? I wanted to clarify with you, it's not a kickback, because why we did that was so we would have money in the budget for the students that go to school in North Kingstown. So spending $100,000 outside of the district, that is why we made the decision, so that we could keep it in the district and have more money for the kids that go to the public schools in North Kingston.
I know, Sherry, and I
So-
appreciate
It's not a
that, but
kickback.
they
I
are
have a
giving
business background,
yep,
it's not a
Sherry,
kickback.
Sherry, yeah, okay, so what we'll do, just, no, it's okay. So what I think we should do is, and this is what we usually do, Mr. Dresser, is so we'll have the administration kind of give us their, whatever
Sure.
they'd like to present.
Mhm.
You're welcome to sit during that, and then.
I'll stand here and answer any questions.
Well, so you could sit, I was going to say, you could always come back. So what we usually do is we'll hear from the administration, we'll ask them questions, and then if there's any other clarifying questions, and then the school committee will deliberate, which we'll do an open, and if we have any questions as we are discussing, we'll
Sure.
direct them to whatever party we think could be best answer.
I'll meander back and forth
Yeah.
between the
No
chair,
worries.
and I'm not as young as I used to be, so
No worries.
thank you.
Okay, so we'll turn it over to the administration now, and hear what they have to say. Dr. Duba?
Thank you. So I'm just going to summarize communications that went out from the school department to families that have students at private, parochial, and charter schools with the changes that we made in the transportation. So in April of this year, of last school year, our transportation supervisor, Ms. Holm, sent a notification to all the families, and that was shared with you as well, that we were going to change our transportation process for students that are going out of district. And we were going to move completely away from doing neighborhood stops to depot stops that would be in the morning and in the afternoon. And that communication was sent from our transportation department. Then, later in the year, Ms. Holm brought to the school committee the choice to contract with statewide. This was information that was new to us regarding the change that the state was making with providing state aid to school districts that use statewide for out-of-district transportation for private, parochial, and charter schools. And once Michelle had learned about that, she then brought that to the committee for conversation about the reasons why we would do that. We were looking at transportation efficiencies for us, for the school department, looking at all of our routes. This was another efficiency that we could use by having statewide step in to provide the transportation. So there was one less bus on our end that we were using, and we can look at other efficiencies within our district that we were doing with transportation. And also through state aid at the following school year, we would get reimbursed for the cost for those transportation costs. In August, after it was presented to the school committee and the school committee approved us contracting with statewide, a notification was sent to all of the families that we were making that change and what they needed to do to contact RIDE through the portal to sign their children up for transportation with statewide if they were choosing to do so by getting transportation through the town. At that point, all communication went from those families to statewide. So the comment that Mr. Dresser made that we were holding back information or lying about a bus going into that neighborhood is not information we would have given to us unless it was presented to us. And that was presented to us the night before when Mr. Dresser saw the the information for the routes when Michelle received the routes, when I received them, when you received them. I just want to make that clear that no information was being held. No one lied. I even questioned it when I saw that the other night, emailed back Michelle, why is this route on there? She was inquiring, and I had conversations back and forth with Dr. Carreno today regarding that's information that we wouldn't have known, because the family that requests, families request accommodations if needed through RIDE, and RIDE then approves that. It does not go through the school department. So that was news to us, that at that point, that there was a bus going in that neighborhood. So that was information that we had just received at that point. So I just wanted to clarify that regarding the registration that happens with families to statewide. There were a lot of emails that were going back and forth from the summer through now between Mr. Dresser. There was communication by phone as well with Ms. Holm and Mr. Dresser. Communication, I did send an email in September. You have that email. He has that email. There were a few responses back and forth there. RIDE, as we do, submitted the depot stops to the North Kingstown Police Department for review to determine if the stops are safe. The same thing we do with our busing as well. I contacted Chief Urban yesterday to find out if the stop at the Shio Fields is safe. He wrote back in email, which I shared with all of you, that he determined that there isn't any reason for him to determine that that stop is unsafe. RIDE has explained its process for transporting private parochial charter schools with us. Emails have also been shared with Mr. Dresser, and emails from legal as well from statewide transportation. There are emails that I submitted to you for review, so you see the correspondence back and forth. At this point, I do believe that we are providing transportation to families that are choosing to attend private parochial and charter schools. The transportation is different from what we have been providing in the past for neighborhood schools. There's no information being held from families. The decision that we made to contract with statewide is very similar to many other districts that do it throughout the state. These depot spots, that are being used in North Kingstown, are also used in many other places throughout the state as the process that RIDE follows. In my communication, that anything I've said that we don't go into the neighborhood, that is true based on the process that the Department of Education has with their system. If they have a request from a family with a accommodation that's being requested, that is something that goes between them if there are going to be any changes with where the bus stops are. We don't make those determinations.
Okay. Anything else, Dr. Duba? Okay, any questions for Dr. Duba?
I just want to clarify, based on the information we were provided in terms of transportation last year, there's 12 schools that North Kingstown has students attending in that are considered the PCCT schools. And of those 12 schools, all of them had depot stops in the morning. Is that correct? This is in the information,
Yes.
yep. And then of those 12, 8 of them also had depot stops in the afternoon. There were only 4 schools that did not have depot stops in the afternoon: Monsignor Clark, Prout, Charahoe, and Narragansett. And so just to confirm, the decision was made in April to convert all of the stops to depot stops. So these last 4 remaining stops for this school year. And then subsequently, we made the decision to outsource that transportation to statewide transportation.
That's true.
Which also maintains depot stops forward and backward. I just want to clarify that. And then I also want to confirm that the information regarding the actual stops came to us last night. Like you said, I had requested a list of all the stops in North Kingstown of depot stops, and that information came in.
And that is not something that is regularly shared. And
Correct.
again, that was the conversation I had with Dr. Carreno today, that we have it because we asked for it.
Right.
They don't share that information with districts that are
And
contracted.
to Mr. Dresser's point, we had specifically requested additional information from RIDE regarding the routes because of some concerns that were raised, and they did not provide that. So that information only came through last week.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And is the
Other
direction
questions for
from
Dr.
RIDE that families have to reach out to them?
If they're
asking-
requesting accommodation, they have to make that request to RIDE, and they make that determination. It is not us.
How does that work with the IEP process though, Ken? Like
the what?
with our IEP process, like would that work
when a student, just clarify for me, like, when a student goes to a different school, does North Kingstown have the responsibility for the IEP, or is it
So
through?
when a child is going to a private school, there would be a service plan that is written
Yeah.
between the private school and the school department.
Mhm.
And just to clarify, if the student, as part of their IEP, requires transportation, that would be in the IEP and communicated directly to statewide, correct?
So that would be an IEP team decision that is there, and then when that IEP is transferred to a service plan, that would be part of that conversation with the family and the
They would know, sorry,
scheduling
right.
of that.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Other questions for Dr. Duba? Ken, one I had was just trying to understand, because I understand like Mr. Dresser's point, and I understand your point. Can you explain to me a little bit more about like what we tried to do to resolve it with RIDE? Because I did, you know, when we switched to RIDE, I did have concerns about any service disruptions or changes to students. I specifically remember asking that when we went with that route. And so I'd be curious to know kind of what you all tried as far as advocating for our students with RIDE regarding possible changes.
So we did, and I say we through Michelle, made the request to RIDE. They sent us their information about their operating procedures regarding the use of depot stops, if that is what they do across the state. That's part of their efficiency within the program, is providing the depot spots for families to use, which means they would have to drive their children to the depot spot in the morning and pick up from there versus having to drive to the private school or out of district. If there was reason for an accommodation, that would have to be made through from the family to them for that request.
Mhm.
Can I interject a piece of information there that might be helpful, or shall I wait?
Let's just finish with the committee's questions for Dr. Duba,
Sure.
and then if we,
Yeah, we can revisit that,
Yeah.
just let them finish
Thank
this
you.
train of thought.
thank you for letting us.
And just to clarify one more time, the communication that went out from us and from RIDE, it's clear that a depot stop is not intended to be a spot where students walk home from, correct? But it's intended to be a spot, like a common spot, where then they are collected by.
But the purpose of the depot spot is that they are brought to that spot to be dropped off and to be picked up from.
They're not intended.
Same
to
as
walk
when
from.
we had the spot at Whitford Middle School, we would not expect that kids would walk into middle school. Expectation is the parents are bringing them there.
So just like we have kind of our definitions about like radius miles and different things like that, does the state have any regulations regarding depot
I
stops?
believe it was
They couldn't-
within
5
5
miles.
miles of their home.
And I'm assuming that this one is.
Yes.
Okay, other questions from the committee for the administration? Okay.
Maybe just let Mr. Dresser do.
Couple clarifications.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get there, I just wanted to make sure.
Take your
I try
time,
to
take your time.
pause. I try to let people think for a second.
Yeah, let
through,
everybody
Just in
digest.
case we have more questions. All right, actually, I wanted to turn it over, ask you first. Any clarification from, I'll get to you, Mr. Judge.
No problem.
Any clarification from you as far as like the legality of North Kingstown and
Yeah,
what we are required to provide versus kind of what
so
for the
under,
legal?
right, so under 162114, the duty of the school committee is to provide a form of transportation. And it specifically says either by use of its own bus facilities and personnel or by contract. This particular year, you've decided and elected to provide that by contract through RIDE, which is absolutely appropriate. A number of districts, different districts do it. Once you enter into that system, as Dr. Duva has said, then it really becomes the processes between the families and RIDE and statewide. In fact, if you look at 1621.15, it specifically says any appeal is not to the school committee. The appeal is actually to RIDE because we're not a part of the equation anymore. We've entered into a contract with them. If a family feels that the transportation they're being provided is not suitable, they are directed to go directly to RIDE. And I do know, and I am sure Mr. Dresser would agree, because he's been in touch with RIDE, and I've been CC'd on the emails where RIDE has provided that appeal process. I think several times. Here's the appeal process. If you disagree, if you believe that you should have an account, whatever it is, there's a process for that. That doesn't involve us. It doesn't involve this body. It's between RIDE and the parent. So at this point in time, what's really before you is just if you were to decide, in other words, this body can't make a decision, hey, we're going to tell RIDE to do something different. You can't. That's not what we contracted for. That's not within your authority. What you could do, presumably, is say, we don't want to contract with RIDE anymore. That's really the only option you have with respect to this particular hearing.
questions for Andrew regarding the information that he just provided? Okay, so we'll circle back to Dresser, go ahead.
Okay.
And then Ken, I'll let you.
Yeah, okay, just so you understand, I'm not trying to call people liars, but in order for these busing arrangements to take place, we do have to sign up with transportation. So whoever's getting picked up in my neighborhood, at some point, their mom and dad had to sign them up. So you know they're there. So maybe you're not lying, but you're either not lying or you're not doing a good job of tracking your people.
Even though, can I just jump in?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll just ask a clarifying question. Anything else you want to say to us, and then I'll
I do.
give the committee an opportunity to ask
I do. I understand that you want me to go to RIDE, and I will, believe me. But I did go to RIDE, and they didn't help me, and then you didn't help me. And not only did you not help me, when I sent public records request, I didn't get all of the information that you've just presented, and I'm not sure I understand why that's not on the public record. What I did get is a string of emails from Michelle, where she emailed RIDE and said, this particular parent can be difficult. Do you want me to handle him? That's not advocacy, is it?
Anything else, Mr. Dresser?
Let's see. I hope not.
It's okay.
We had to sign up for it, and then I agree with your plan, Dr. Duva. I get it, and I understand why this is happening. I've had many conversations with your predecessor about busing. He was a little more proactive. He would call me up and have a conversation. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But the equitable estoppel, that's a big deal, and that's not on RIDE. That's on you. You did this for decades. My family bought a huge house in the suburbs knowing that for decades you guys have been bringing the kids home from Monsignor Clark. And you're like, no, not gonna, that's pulling the rug out from underneath us. It's not equitable estoppel at all. And I think you would argue the same. And I did without, I won't tell you how to do your job, Andrew, but the definition is sufficient busing under RIGL. Sufficient. So if you can find a sentence and string it together that says 2.5 miles down Slocum Road is sufficient, then you're following the law. If you can't, then you're not, right? Sufficient. Not supplemented, sufficient. I'm surprised no other parents have picked this fight with somebody else long before you guys had to deal with it.
Anything else?
Sufficient.
Can you just
No.
clarify what information you're saying you didn't receive through the APRA?
Literally, almost everything Dr. Duvas said was news to me. The only thing that they said, I had to go back and look to be 100% sure, but the only thing I recall receiving was a string of emails from Michelle to the manager at RIDE Transportation. And I think I had asked for safety information. I think there was like one brochure about safety.
If you don't mind following up with that from me,
Yeah.
that is.
I'm glad to share it with you.
Right,
I'll send it right to you.
The information from Chief Urban was yesterday.
I was just
And,
Yeah.
that was the one thing. That was the thing I wanted
No,
to clarify.
that's fine.
So-
I just,
so
I
that
do
was-
really
that was
take.
yesterday.
Yeah, when I
That
spoke to
was-
Chief Urban, it was 2 weeks ago, and he had not heard from RIDE. Now, if RIDE is smart, they probably called him right away, because I said, John, have you heard from RIDE about this stop? And he said, let me check with my people. And then he called me back and he said, no, we have not heard from them. Being a diligent and doing his due diligence as he's known to do, I'm sure he straightened that right out. He's not worried about me, nor should he be. But when I spoke to him, he double-checked with his person, and he said, I have not heard from them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions?
Can we
They can-
clarify,
they-
did RIDE deny your appeal?
I did not appeal to RIDE.
Okay.
Why would I appeal? You guys already wrote up there and called me difficult. That sounds like a complete waste of time.
No, I think
Right?
it
Like
was
it's already,
okay.
this has already been a
I just
tremendous
wanted to
waste of
know.
time.
Questions? Yeah. All right. So, you have not taken that official path yet.
No, I
You
think that's-
contacted RIDE, but have not done.
I
it
think
yet.
you guys should advocate for me with RIDE.
Just one more clarification. You were notified in April, correct, that you were switching to depot stops?
I do believe it was April. And I think I emailed back in May when I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any
Can
other
I
questions for Mr. Dresser?
Can I ask Andrew a question?
Yeah, let's see. Anyone else have questions for Mr. Dresser, and then we can see if Ken or Andrew wants to add anything.
Just to clarify, you are stating that you believe that we should have knowledge of which students are being picked up by statewide transportation at which locations?
I'm not suggesting, like, I don't want to tell you how to do your job. All I'm suggesting is that in order to get our children on that roster, even for depot busing, we did have to send an email to transportation.
Ride transportation or North?
No, North Kingstown.
Okay.
North Kingstown.
But any accommodations that would have taken place between Ride and other families would not be.
I wouldn't know about them.
Neither would I.
You would only know that that student existed and was getting on at a stop, and I can only assume that you would know that getting on a unique stop, but I don't know that part.
Not
That's
with
not
any
mine.
medical accommodation that was discussed directly between the family and Ride. North Kingstown wouldn't have access to that information. Is that correct?
Nope.
Any other questions for Mr. Dresser? Doctor, do you have anything that you want to add? And then we'll do Sherry's question to
I do
Mr.
not have
Dresser.
anything to add.
Okay, Sherry, your question?
I just wanted to clarify, didn't we send it out and the parents of kids going to schools outside the North Kingstown School Department had to tell our transportation or Ride's transportation?
Tell them what?
Like, that their kid was gonna take the depot?
I think they
Like,
had to
so-
do, it sounds like they
So
had to do both. They had
It
to
would
submit a
have been
form.
both, because
Both,
we
okay.
sent something out, right? So actually ask Michelle to maybe just provide that timeline of when that request.
Well,
was
but it went to both. It went to us and it went
Because
to.
then when we made the decision to
It went to
go
both.
with Ride, they then received information to go of putting their request into the portal.
The Ride portal.
That's what should have happened.
Mhm.
I'm just confirming that that is.
All right.
And-
I have somewhat unapologetically stood here and expected you to deal with it, and that I should not have to spend an incredible amount of time and energy going through an appeal process with the state because you tried to save some money. This has been going on for decades. I have a job. I don't have time to argue with the state of Rhode Island. You should do that because it's ultimately your responsibility to get our children to and from school. Stop putting your job on me. That's all I've been asking here. I don't want to do your jobs. Hey, you know what?
All right,
I
Mr.
offered to
Dresser.
do your job, and the town council said no, and they put Bob Case on it. So there you go. I offered to do it for free.
You want to add, Mr. Dresser, about?
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Any questions for any other further questions from the committee before we deliberate?
I just want to know from Andrew. Do you think the school department can submit an appeal for Mr. Dresser? So it has to come from the parents. We're not able to. Okay. I just wanted to make sure or ask if we could.
Jen, did you have a question?
And just to clarify, as far as our legal obligation goes, we've entered into a contract with Statewide, correct?
Yeah, Ride and Statewide to
And
provide that.
Ride and
Yep.
Statewide, and the manner in which they transport those students, including the depot stops, is considered sufficient?
It's run throughout the entire state.
Right, under the law, okay.
Is there, two questions regarding that. Is there any definition around the word sufficient? Like in the, you know what I mean? Like sufficient is,
There's case law.
Well,
Yeah.
interesting enough, the term sufficient is not used in 1621(1)(2). I'm not saying, it simply says shall be provided with bus transportation.
okay, so where does the sufficient word come in
My
the
guess
law?
is probably from the 1621, not .1. Would be my guess.
Mr. Dresser, do you know?
I'd have to go look it up, yeah.
I would too.
No, it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, to
What
be
if you
fair, I
knew?
would
It would be
too.
quicker for me, but I can find it. No worries. And then, was there anything in our agreement with Ride, like if the district did have concerns about the way that our students were being transported, just like any other vendors that we have, like what is our process for?
It sounds like the process is what was followed, which was just notify them we were getting some complaints
Yeah.
and point, that person in the direction of this is how you appeal to
Yeah.
Ride, and this is how you follow their process.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee before we deliberate?
Did Ride provide good direction? I mean, from the emails, it looked like how to just to appeal to them and send a letter.
Yeah, there were two emails from Vilma DiOrio, who is the Ride legal assistant,
Okay.
and I know those two emails attach the appeal process.
Okay.
I just had one other question. So it sounded like, say the committee decided, and I don't even know if we technically could vote on it today because of the way it's listed on the agenda, like it's not listed as like not utilizing statewide transportation, so I'd want some clarification on what we are even able to vote on today or not. But it sounds like the only recourse that we have in this situation is if we wanted to stop using statewide transportation. Do we know if that's an all or nothing?
Do I
Contract?
know? No, I don't. I believe it's an all or nothing, but I can't say that with certainty.
You'd have to
Alright.
find that out.
Yeah, and then the other question regarding that is, say we did choose that, it sounds like previous to this choice to go with statewide, we still would be doing a depot stop. Had we determined where that depot stop for these buses were going to be, or did we not even get to that point because of the timing of the year of when things happened?
What was the what depot spot would we be using?
We started looking at them. We were using Wilson Park for some. We were using.
Oh, sorry, Michelle, I'm going to ask you to come to the.
Michelle Hume, Transportation Supervisor. We were starting to look at them. We were looking at like Wilson Park. We were looking at, excuse me, Wickford Middle School, Davisville Middle School. We were trying to find out where everybody was geographically, but then that's when we decided to turn everything over to them. So they did sign up in the spring because we had asked families to sign up, which was our normal protocol through the years, but that was the information then that we turned over to RIDE/statewide.
Because we would have to determine, like, based on the students and where they live, you would have to make sure there's a depot stop within 5 miles for
Correct.
each of those students. So if somebody lived like really, really far and there wasn't one within 5 miles, you'd have to reconfigure.
Correct. That's what we were looking at. We were starting to look at.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions from the committee?
The information from the parent who has the stop in the neighborhood for medical.
We really
We can't talk about that.
really
Yeah.
can't talk about that.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
getting to the point
Yeah.
of breach of confidentiality.
Okay.
I just want to
Yeah.
caution us.
I also am worried about that.
But they obviously appealed to RIDE. Oh, we don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know.
That would be how a person could do that. Any other questions before we deliberate? Okay, so can someone just clarify so the parent appeal, obviously Mr. Dresser is unsatisfied with the transportation that he's receiving from statewide. Can someone clarify for me so Dr. Duva obviously replied and said that that was not going to, based on his recommendation, that's not changing that. We would be continuing to use statewide. Correct. So what we are being posed with as a school committee is to either uphold or change the decision that Dr. Duva is making the recommendation to us. I just want to clarify, this one's a little interesting as far as what we're
It's
voting
very
on.
interesting, but honestly, the only decision you can make here today would be to say, we agree with Mr. Dresser, and therefore we are going to opt out. And I say completely like that, I don't know the answer to. We're going to opt out of a portion or the entirety of this contract with RIDE, or we stand by the contract we entered into with RIDE and go from there. And there's an appeal process for parents to go directly to RIDE to sort that out.
Are we even able to vote on that with the way that it's listed on our agenda?
Yeah, I think you probably could.
Okay. Does the committee understand that piece?
Mhm.
Okay, so at this point, we'll have the committee deliberate. So thoughts from the committee or discussion from the committee regarding this item?
I just think parents should do the appeal process through RIDE, because if RIDE denied it, then I think we'd have something more to talk about. But we don't even know that RIDE would deny moving the stop.
Other thoughts?
I think that the expectation of what a depot stop is and is not was clearly communicated. I think that the fact that we were making a change to depot stops in the afternoon was communicated in April, which is before the end of the school year. And I think we are providing the same level of transportation now for all schools, whereas before we weren't. It was inconsistent. So from that standpoint, we've consolidated all of our PCCT transportation into one area. And I don't think that we can discount the financial benefits of using statewide. It would be, that's a big money savings that we're looking at. And we were switching to depot stops ourselves. And I sympathize with Mr. Dresser. I've been on the correspondence with RIDE. It's not been super helpful. But unfortunately, I think his recourse is with RIDE, not with us.
Other thoughts? I just have a clarifying question, Andrew. How long is our agreement with RIDE? Does anyone know?
It's every year.
If we have the committee has an option to
Every year we can
Revisit that.
Because I do have concerns, like, I think, I understand the depot stop concept, and I understand that there was a shift of kind of what we were doing in the past and what we were planning on doing, and then what Bride is doing, which was consistent with what we were planning on doing. I was concerned about response to parent concerns from the provider. I understand that not every single thing can be responded to and can be changed, but I do think hearing out, especially like students and their families, is important, and so I do think we should consider that when we think about RIDE next year, and what we want to do as far as statewide. Other thoughts? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I'll need a motion from the committee if they would want to make some. It's currently we're in like the hearing part, so I actually need a motion for this item.
Would the motion be to uphold the superintendent's decision? Is that a motion?
Yeah, I think the motion would be probably to uphold, or the committee's prior decision to stay with statewide busing and maybe, again, refer the family to the RIDE appeals process.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion on the motion? No further discussion? All right. Hearing no further discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of supporting the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Committee voted unanimously. Sorry, Mr. Strasser, I know that's not the result that you were looking for today. All right, moving on to the next item.
Yes.
I will make a motion to authorize the district attorney to speak to NEA and K Council as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that item? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item B. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Juby, do you want to present this information, the Warwick?
So what I shared with everyone on the committee is the enrollment information for the high school for this current school year. Our enrollment numbers are as of October 1st when we report to RIDE. We currently, at that time, had 1,311 students enrolled. I broke down the number of students at the high school that reside in other districts that are attending our high school. Either A, they are from Jamestown and we have a contract with Jamestown to educate students from Jamestown, or they're from other programs strictly that are attending our high school for CTE. When you look at those enrollment numbers and the percentages, Jamestown students represent 8% of our population, and Warwick students represent 5% of the population. The policy for liaisons from other districts states that any district that has, I think it says over more than 5%, the school committee chair can invite a school committee liaison from that district. We currently have a Jamestown liaison. The only other district that comes close is Warwick, which is at 4.95. That's already rounded up to 5%.
All right, so thank you so much for that information. And so based on these numbers, because of the way that it's stated with more than 5%, we would not need to invite a liaison from the Warwick district at this time.
Based on the policy language. Yes.
Any questions or comments regarding that?
No, but I guess it's probably just something good to look at every year.
Yeah, keep an eye on it.
Yep, agree. I do think this time of year, I think I said this at the last meeting, makes sense as far as the census data and when to look at it, because that would be around when we would have that. Although we could definitely keep an eye on it if they see like an increase in enrollment or anything if the high school notices that. Any other questions regarding the information presented? Okay, thank you. Thank you for doing that work, Dr. Cooper. Appreciate it. moving on to item C.
I'd like to make a motion to task Dr. Duva with sending out a public announcement on the background for why RIDE didn't accept the stage 2 submission.
I'm confused. This is for item C?
So we're talking about the review of potential legal action.
Yep.
Yep. So what's your
No, I guess that's fine. All right, so say the motion again, sorry.
To task Dr. Duva to send out a public announcement on the background for why RIDE didn't accept the stage 2 submission.
Do we have a second? Okay, hearing no second, the motion doesn't move forward. Do
Can
we
I
have
just
any
ask
other
something
motions?
then? Can we just stop
No,
putting
sorry.
this on the agenda then?
I'm actually scheduled to talk to Peregrine
Okay,
tomorrow.
hold on 1 second. We don't have a motion on this item, so if we want to discuss this item, I need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to discuss.
I will second.
Okay.
Can we stop putting this on the agenda then?
I was hoping to have information for you tonight. I'm scheduled to talk with Peregrine tomorrow on this very issue. So hopefully at the next meeting, I'll tell you what, if we don't have anything new, I'll ask that it come off, but I'm hoping that we do. We've got to bring this to some kind of closure, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this?
No.
Okay, moving on to the next one, D.
I will make a motion to discuss GCB non-unit benefits.
Second.
So this is the second read of an existing policy which covers the employment terms of school district employees who are not covered by a collective bargaining unit or fall outside of other defined subsets as defined within the policy. This policy has been updated to more clearly define certain areas and includes proposed changes to, among other things, retirement, tuition reimbursement, salary computations, longevity, and merit pay. Since the last read at the last school committee meeting, the minor changes I mentioned have been updated. There was a question that came up as well as to whether we wanted all NKSD employees to have a contract. If that's the way we want to go, we could amend this policy tonight as we discussed to note that and state that they all need to adhere to the terms of this policy unless otherwise approved by the school committee.
Can I ask a question too about the pop? So, do people who are not part of the union, do they actually like read this policy and sign something saying they read it?
No, they do not.
Can we put something like that in the policy? Just because I feel like
The policy this is given to them when they're hired because we refer to the DCD policy, but they don't sign off on this policy.
okay, because I know in corporate America it's kind of like you would read a policy, you would sign it, so that it's. Would you agree, Andrew, that then
Yes.
you can't say I didn't read it or I didn't see it? Because I feel like that's how we could have this great policy, but if no one's reading it.
Yeah, but
Well,
I don't disagree
I
with
wouldn't
your
say that
suggestion,
means-
but,
I mean, they are provided with the policy, that's where all the benefits are, so.
yeah.
No, I get.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Terry, like, it doesn't matter if they, like, we would hope that people would read it, but they, as employees of North Kingstown School District, like, they know that they are
Is actually
under
like
all of the
I mean, they know that, but I do think a
Yeah.
Like an
signature,
attorney couldn't get
a
around
signature
it
page
Yeah.
would be good.
Mhm.
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
A signature page.
Signature
or
page
a
saying that they
notation
acknowledging that they
saying-
even received and given the
Yeah, with
opportunity
HR.
to discuss the
Yeah.
policy or something. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's definitely a valid suggestion. We could add language perhaps that like this needs to be presented to, presented to, well, I would say, well, we'd want to write in the policy that HR needs to present it and get a signature. Like that's where we would want to,
Okay,
We
and not
wanna-
just, and put a signature maybe at the bottom, so
Yeah.
then you could copy
Yeah, I don't know
it.
if I would put a
No,
signature,
yeah.
I wouldn't put a
Yeah.
signature at the end of the policy.
Oh, but maybe
I would
it's
put
something
No,
else.
no,
in
no.
the
I was
policy
talking about a
that-
one-sentence form I have received and
Yeah.
given the
yeah,
opportunity.
and then that could go to their HR file. But what I'm saying is if we want that to be a mandated thing that HR does, we could put that in this policy, saying
Okay.
that this should be presented to any the employees that are under this policy, and then a sign off that goes in their file acknowledging it.
So we could add D, like dissemination of policy,
Yep.
and add a statement to that effect. And would we want that to also apply to not just new hires, but like all employees that are employed as of today? Like how would that
Yes.
work?
Yes.
So
All current
all current
employees and
new.
future.
Okay.
So are we saying that this is going to be in lieu of an actual contract?
So
Like,
That's the way the policy's written as of now.
Yeah, so my personal opinion though is I feel like this document should exist no matter what. If Dr. Duva wants to have individual contracts for those employees, I would not oppose that whatsoever, but I do think having a document that outlines it and makes it consistent for those employees is really important. And then in my mind, their contracts would reference this. So it would say like vacation time as determined in policy GCB, et cetera, so that if the school committee or the district wants to make any changes, they don't have to find and go through each individual contract to make sure that they're aligned and changed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand that, but how, so we would just leave it up to Dr. Duva for those 6 contract people, positions that do not have contracts, to decide whether or not he feels it necessary, or do we vote on it as a committee?
We could vote on it as a committee if you wanted to make an addendum to this
That's
policy.
right, so we could
That's kind of what I thought. I
we
heard
could
you.
amend
Yeah,
it
yeah.
tonight if that's something that, we want to see in there.
Is that like a motion that needs to be made,
Yeah,
or
just-
just?
So what
Or just
because we're in a discussion right now, what I would recommend is that we have somebody type out like the 2, like if we're making changes, like have us write them so that everyone's clear on like the language of those changes, and then when we make a motion to approve the policy, we would say with the 2 amendments, or we could vote on each of the amendments, put them in, and then vote on the policy. So we could take it either way. But we should type it out. Like I don't want to approve it with like vague language, if that makes sense, because it's big changes. Like it's not like all word changes.
Yeah, that's not
like,
it's to and or something.
Yeah.
Are you on it typing?
I'll type in the dissemination one.
So let's work on those 2 other thoughts or questions regarding.
I want to reiterate my concerns over giving professional evaluations on employees' hygiene and appearance. I really think that we should not be grading people based on that. Ken, I know you had mentioned a possible rephrase, but I still think saying attire and hygiene that reflect respect is a nebulous term, and there could be many reasons why somebody's attire or hygiene may be different from what somebody would expect, and I think it's wrong to base somebody's professional evaluation on that.
Dr. Duva, any thoughts on that?
I think that I'm very open at changing the wording on that, but I think it's important that when people are coming to work, they are dressed professionally. We say something about business casual. I think, their appearance working here, especially in the school department, has an impact on them working with the rest of the team, the colleagues, as role models with students. I think that does play a role in effectiveness of work within this environment.
So with the evaluation that we are looking at, is that the evaluation that specific one is for supervisory
That is for
1 employees?
Yeah.
Right, that is for
Page
GCD
45.
supervisory 1. The other evaluation tool is for all of the directors and supervisors.
Is it in
So
both?
it's
No.
So we're
And
only,
that tool, that language is also similar in the ESP evaluation.
Yep.
When you look at, I can go through the other evaluation.
so we're only assessing personal hygiene for lower wage employees?
Well, it's
I-
called personal habits, is that
Yeah.
the one?
I mean,
I
I
know what you mean,
would
like maybe get rid of the thing in
Be happy
parentheses.
to add something
Yeah,
to the other
yeah.
tool that
And
we
leave
have.
professional
Yeah, I just
presentation.
think we should be consistent, like if that's
I'm just looking
important,
to pull it up
if that's an
so-
important performance factor for
Because even when you look at.
one subcategory of this, I would imagine your statement would stand for the other.
Mhm.
And I was
Right.
just saying, maybe take out what's in the parentheses, the attire and hygiene, and just leave professional presentation, which sort of,
I think that's better, yeah.
Andrew,
Can
if a
encompass that?
employee does not meet expectation for personal habits and we were pointing to attire and hygiene, where would that go in the world of discipline?
It would depend on the fact pattern that brought you there. I mean, I do think that, and I did do a little looking into this. I think given that you're a public school department, I think you can certainly consider attire and hygiene based on your public facing thing. If I don't know what the hygiene situation is, but if it's hygiene an issue to the extent that it's I don't want to say it's not safe, but it's disrupting the educational environment, I think that can be taken into consideration as well. However, with any of these things, you would also have to do an analysis if there's a disability-related reason or some other reason that would mitigate the circumstances or would require an accommodation. It wouldn't simply be you know, you dressed this way or your hygiene was such a way, you'd have to have a conversation, make sure there was no underlying medical or religious or whatever the reason may be. So I don't think it's not legally inappropriate to be there. Let me stop that. I don't think it's legally inappropriate to be in there, and I think it can be considered. It would just have to be, you know, depending on the fact pattern.
Thank you. And so when we are approving this policy, I don't believe that these evaluations have probably been approved by a school committee before. That seems administrative.
My recollection from the last policy subcommittee is right. We were just attaching it as a reference point.
Yeah, so
Yep.
we're not actually approving that, but
It's in
obviously.
the policy though, like that they will be evaluated based on those,
Right, but I don't.
No, I understand, but I'm saying this, the school committee's, like, oversight is whether or not we want that sentence in the
Yes.
policy, not what the document that it is referring to is.
well,
That's where I'm
that
trying to get the
sentence is not in
clarification.
the policy, that sentence is in the performance review.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, what I'm saying is, it's the school committee's choice whether or not we want to say that that policy is in, that evaluation tool is in this policy. I feel it's administrative what is in the evaluation tools that they're using for their employees. We are more than welcome, now that we've seen it, to give Dr. Duva feedback, but I was clarifying, we are not actually voting on what's in those evaluations.
Correct.
That's,
Yep, yeah, those are
Yeah.
the additional
if
sentences
the,
where
what
I
the
think
school
the
committee would
attachments.
do, if they don't like those, is take that out of the actual
Yeah.
policy, but we don't, I wanna make really clear on what's administrative and what's policy stuff. But it does sound like Dr. Duva was willing to look at it beyond the vote of the policy. And it sounded like, just to summarize, Ken, it sounded like the school committee might recommend taking out maybe just those parentheses words, that would be progress, and then looking at if it's in.
And I will add it in the other evaluation tool as well.
Huh.
So.
Thank you.
Can I make one more suggestion for removing something? I'm assuming this is for all non-union members.
That's true.
If you go, sorry, I'm on the wrong document now. If you go to the bottom of, let's see, the.
Oh, yeah, it says union representation.
Yeah, at the very bottom of the 2-page document, the North Kingstown School Department Performance Report for non-certified staff.
What, do you not remember?
Oh my gosh, no, because I just pulled it up.
Just because this is the actual one for the union folks,
Yeah.
and
All right,
so
okay.
the one that, I would assume that the one that the level 1 employees under this policy, that it would be edited to make sense for their
Yeah,
job.
requesting a meeting with administration, not.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Like, this would have to be edited, because some of their titles aren't even
Okay.
on here. But that, I mean, it's a good point, but. Alright, other questions regarding the policy? Nothing
no, but-
changed with the fiscal impact, because there is a fiscal impact with this policy, correct? Like, nothing changed from
Nothing
when
changed
we
from last
received it last time? Is that attached this time? No? Alright. Any other questions regarding this?
So, does somebody want to make a motion about contracts or not leave it, or how do we want to do that?
I'd like to make a motion to create contracts for the.
So you would make a motion to amend
Amend the policy.
current policy and then say what you want it to say, and then we can type that up.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to amend the current policy to include the creation of contracts for, I don't know how you want me to list them, like
I
the
would-
6
No.
Well,
Do you want
could you say,
recommendation?
non-union.
or could you just put it for all, that make sure everyone has a
All
contract? Like,
Okay.
you're going
Yeah.
forward
Yeah.
as a new position.
Okay,
Yeah, so you could say,
make a motion to amend the policy to include contracts for all non-union employees, district employees.
Non-union NKSD employees.
before we have a second on that motion, we would want it to be like in policy language, so we would say all employees under this policy will will be provided a contract from the administration, right? Like it would have to sound like that.
I mean, what you're talking about is every employee,
Yeah.
which I agree with, by the way, should have a
Yeah.
written contract, and that would reference this GCB policy for benefits
Yeah.
and some additional guidance.
Yeah.
I mean, given, and I'm just asking this question, given the scope of the changes, does this have to be passed tonight? Is this something we can add a couple of sentences to?
No.
I mean, it might be a little cleaner.
Yeah, we can come back for a third read.
Just, I think that, because I'd like to think about
Yeah,
how we
let's-
put that in here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I also, about terms and stuff, I have
Yep.
some questions regarding that too.
Okay, I take back my motion.
Yeah, so why don't we, alright, so we're in a motion to discuss, we're
So-
having discussion.
I will make a motion.
Wait, let's see if there's any other discussion, and then you can make a motion to table it to the next meeting, right? Right. Alright, any other discussion or questions regarding the policy? We got there was one clarifying thing, I think actually that got done before the first read. Right, Jen, the administration was?
Yes.
That was all set,
Yep.
okay, perfect. Anything else regarding this? Alright, do we want to make a motion
Well, we were just in a motion to discuss, so we'll say.
and discussion? And then we can just have it on the agenda next time?
Yeah, so we'll go back and we'll add these two things that we talked about and bring it back for review at the next meeting.
Alright. Any further discussion on that?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, and just to clarify, we're gonna add the language about the contract as well as,
Acknowledgement of the receipt of the policy.
yep. Okay,
Okay, I will make a motion to discuss IHAM health education student exclusion.
Second.
This is the second read of an existing policy which has been modified to name the 3 statutory waivers for exemption of a student from health education curricula pursuant to RIGL, to change the word exclusion to opt-out, and to incorporate language from the regulation policy. It also, since the last meeting, it also adds language noting that schools must provide families direction on how to opt students out. Since the last read, we've updated this revision to reflect the curriculum notification and process for review that we had discussed at the last meeting. At this time, I'm recommending approval.
can you just clarify for me on the colors?
Blue is new this time.
Thank you.
Can we discuss, or did we ever find out if we could email parents, or is that copyrighted? When we were talking about I know it's not in the policy, but just because I know there's a lot of questions.
The curriculum?
Yeah, like if we can email them, or do they have to just come in and get it?
It's
Like,
copyrighted material.
it is, okay. Someone had a question too, that if a child gets opted out and then they get an independent assignment, can the parents see what that is? Like, is it related to the topic, or is it not? Like, there was just a couple parents that asked that question.
Where is that in the policy, the alternate
Students who
assignment?
are opted out from the above mentioned units, lessons, and health instruction will be expected to fulfill an independent assignment from the teacher.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, that last sentence thing.
Yeah, I think it was just
I think
questions like what is.
that assignment is, we would notify.
So the parent would know what
When we
it
say
is.
opt-out, we'd say this is the other option.
Okay,
Right? We would
perfect.
share what that option is going to be.
Yeah, I think that was just the question.
If that's the practice, I would recommend putting it in the policy, because right now, that is not.
Right. I think we would say that we would provide what the other option is.
Yeah, so
So
students
do
who
we
are
wanna
opted
add a
out from the
sentence
above
that
units
says
in health instruction will be.
Parents will be,
Notified of what the other option is.
Okay.
So would we add after teacher, after students who are opted out of the above units or lessons will be expected to fulfill an independent assignment from the teacher, which will be presented to the parent and guardian, or?
I'd just be careful with presenting, because I mean, it's not some, I just
would
would
say that.
not want to be a situation where all of a sudden there's a debate as to, I mean, if it falls within the category, then clearly understood, but if it's, hey, I don't know,
I mean, if they're opting
you're gonna do
out
your
of
times tables or
something
whatever.
specific, right? If they're opting out of something because of a religious reason or whatever it may be, we're not going to then give them another option
No,
that still has that
so
comfort.
if we say
right?
parents will be
So-
notified of what the alternate assignment is, if we add that sentence.
It will be fulfilled in an independent assignment from the teacher, which will be shared with the parents, or the guardians, parents, guardians, whatever.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yeah.
So, if I'm a parent receiving notification of the assignment that my child's being opted out of, that would not be an option for them to not do the
No,
alternate
that's- I
assignment.
wanna
make
It would
sure
just be
that's clear.
notification.
Notification.
Right.
Just notifying them.
Okay.
It's not giving them.
It
options.
can't be, well, my child covered that last year in another class, I wanna do something different, no, it's, what I think to Dr. Duva's point, it can't be, I've opted out of this for a religious reason, well, the alternate assignment is still somehow tangentially
I think
related
that's
to that
where
religion.
Sherry's concern
Yeah.
is
I think that's
coming
where
from.
the
Yeah.
couple parents were.
Right. I think it's like assumed, but.
So I understand that, and I think it's obviously transparency is key. I do want to call attention to the fact that, you know, it is adding another burden onto the teacher to make that notification possible. Again, just throwing that out there as another thing that is put on the notification of a teacher to notify a parent of an assignment that the parent has, if they don't have a choice in whether it's being done, but to notify them. If we're putting that in policy language.
So maybe it'd be better something just in procedure, like when, you know, communicating it out. Saying if you want to see the independent assignment, you can request it. You know, like when you send out the opt out, like more procedural versus policy.
So going along Sherry's thought, so the 3 areas that they can opt out are sexuality and family life, HIV and AIDS, and the characteristics or symptoms for treatment of disease, correct? Like those are the 3
Correct.
areas.
Mm-hmm.
So just to walk me through and understand, like if, say, a parent opted out the HIV and AIDS assignment and students were supposed to research something and write a paper on it, just for hypothetical, what would an independent assignment look like in that area if they opted out of the HIV? You know what I mean? Like, I guess that would be what I would be curious about.
So.
And I'm not asking for specifics, but just
Sure.
like in general,
I would say
like,
my expectation generally would be that it's something that's a parallel type of request from a student in terms of what they're expected to do, in terms of like the work that they're expected to do with the content being different. Because obviously the content is going to be modified so because you're opted out of learning about that particular subject. But whatever the students are asked to do, so to use your example, if they're writing a paper and doing research, the topic would just be a different topic, that they perform the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if we add something on the end of the sentence that says, we'll be expected to fill an independent assignment from the teacher, if we add something that is like, to the effect of.
Content different,
Content different from the,
assignment
like,
or something.
yeah, like in a content area, like, basically saying not in one of those 3 areas that you got opted out. That way it's just saying, like, this is in general what the independent assignment would be. Could we say, fill an independent assignment for the teacher on a different part of the curricula, or like a different subject
Just say
matter?
maybe another health topic.
Another health topic?
Yeah, I think that's where, I mean, there's going to be, I think, some professional discretion
Right.
allowed for the teacher.
Because that would be calculated.
Yeah.
I do want to be clear to the teachers though, and I know that this should be assumed, but I try not to. Like, I try to make it really clear to folks. Like, to me, common sense would be you wouldn't give it in that area of that thing that they're opting out of. But I think what might help is having like really explicit language saying that, because I do agree that it would be like, I would want to have confidence that like whatever that alternate assignment would be, would it be in that area that I had just opted? Like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
you know what I mean?
I
think that's obvious,
Well,
but
yeah.
but not written. Is
Right,
what I'm
I think the
saying.
policy is just too general. I think that's why I'm going to guess that a couple of parents emailed about that. Just because it was
So-
not specific, but maybe
So-
if we just make it more specific.
So do we want to say something along the lines of students who are opted out from the above-mentioned units, lessons, and health instruction will be expected to fulfill, excuse me, an independent assignment from the teacher in a different topic?
On a different topic. or
Yeah.
something.
An
An equivalent independent assignment.
Equivalent
Yeah.
independent assignment on a
Yeah.
different topic
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
teacher.
Yeah, that might be better too, so then the teacher doesn't
Yeah.
have to.
But that
I think
also
that's
takes
fair.
away the burden.
Yeah.
From the
I don't-
teacher,
I
I
understand
think
what
it
you're
makes the
saying.
parents feel
Yeah.
better.
All right, so that sounds like a reasonable confirmation.
Oh yeah, I think it does.
No, I think your point's valid, but I also heard Rob on like the.
Oh, I totally agree. I think it was just, I think
Yep.
that would clear up
Okay. Other questions or thoughts on this one?
concerns.
Most teachers put assignments in Canvas anyway to explain what the child is doing, don't they? I mean, I know
They do.
They do for my daughter at the high school.
They
so-
do, they do. Canvas is used.
Yeah. So,
But again,
I'm just saying if a parent wanted to know,
No,
then
you're
they
right.
could say
Good point.
they could go and check it.
They can access
They
it.
should be able to check it themselves. But
It depends though on like if it was like an in-class thing that's not in, like, who knows?
yeah.
Maybe there's 9,000 ways to break it. Any other questions about IHAM?
Nope.
Okay, so I would recommend a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the policy with the change to the last sentences we discussed.
Second.
You can pick whoever you want on that one. There's a tie. Any further discussion? My only discussion would be because we obviously are beyond the beginning of the school year. Could we retroactively send out that information that's in this policy as outlined in this to catch us up for this year?
So are you saying you want this to go out like now?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So if the school committee approves it, like this policy says that it's at the beginning of each school year.
Yes.
We've obviously missed that
Yes.
for this year, but what I'm asking is for you all to send it out within the next week or so to parents so that they have that. The intent is so that they know now, and then they also get it 1 week in advance. So I'm just asking for you.
Understood.
Okay.
Yes, we can make that happen.
Okay. Thank you. And then we can get back, then next year we can get on that cycle of the beginning of the school
Yes.
year energy.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the policy with the amended language, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I will make a motion to discuss IHAMR.
Second.
This policy is being recommended for deletion. Once the revisions to policy IHMR are approved, as the language is being incorporated, this will no longer be needed. Now that we have approved the modification to IHAM, I'm going to make a motion to delete IHAMR.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions regarding that? Okay. Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. Can I get a motion for A?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Dr. Duva, anything? You have the motion?
We have recommendation for the policy committee members. There are 3 parent guardians, 2 students, and 1 staff member being recommended for the committee.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, can you, Dr. Dewar, explain why your original recommendations were not put forward in the second round?
I will share the same explanation as I did last time. When we sent the applications out in May, those names were reviewed in June. At that time, going through the list, I had a list that was that I was looking at. That list had some highlighted names. I went through that list thinking those were the names that the other co-chair also looked at and was selecting. I then made a decision off of that list and notified the 3 parents. Myself, I asked Mr. Mazzani too, because I was doing other things, so I asked him to make the phone call for me, asking those 3 parents if they still were willing to be on the committee, and put my recommendation forward. Then at the time I was told that the process was not followed with having that discussion with the other co-chair to agree on the names. So that's why it was pulled off, and we then agreed that we would send out the application again in September, because we also did not have any student reps that applied, and we didn't have any staff that applied, to then reconsider who we were putting forward.
I know, but my question was, why did the people you chose in May change to the people you chose now?
So the reason for the change.
Because it should be your recommendation.
So the other co-chair and I reviewed all of the applicants that were presented to us in May and the applicants that were presented to us in September. And we reviewed the names until we came under an agreement of which names were being brought forward.
It doesn't need to be an agreement. It can be your recommendation. So I guess I'll ask Jen, why did you not put Pam Panera on the list?
Are we allowed to discuss that, Andrew?
I wouldn't name anyone specifically.
Okay,
It's
so
not a
why
public
did the
information
people-
unless they're appointed.
Why don't you
like,
just...
like Ken said, in May, he did not have a
I
conversation.
know.
You asked
Sure
me,
you
you asked me, and I'm gonna
That's not what I
explain.
asked you. Since I can't ask you a specific person, then
Uh,
please
uh,
explain why these 3 people were chosen.
In May, Ken did not have a conversation with me. The people that he put forward were not the people that I selected. So we agreed, when we went back out, we would have a conversation, and we would sit down and we would go through. And we, again, did not have the same people, but we went back and forth and we came to a compromise on who we were going to select.
So I'm asking
And the
why these
reason
three
why
people.
I put certain people through and not others was because the focus that they put on their application, either they had solid legal experience or they specifically mentioned serving students in the community. And I chose the people that I think will best serve the students at North Kingstown. I don't disagree that people have given input on policies, and like was mentioned, they've been incorporated where they are, but as the co-chair of this committee, it's on me, which I recommended to Dr. Duba, that there were people who seemed more student-centered than others.
It's not on you. The policy is very specific that Dr. Duber can make the recommendation even if you don't agree. And I disagree because there was people who applied who actually ran for school committee and really got a lot of votes, not that many less than you, me, and Rob, who I feel that people in this town and parents in this school department want to have that person give their opinion.
And they are still welcome to give their opinion. Anybody's welcome to, but the policy says that representation is determined between the co-chair and the superintendent. These are the names that.
It does not say that. It
does.
specifically says it's the superintendent. I'm not going to argue about that, but I also feel like the policy subcommittee is very one-sided, and that is not what it should be.
And I hope that it won't be. I hope that the people that I picked,
That's why I think Dr.
you
Duber
picked?
should have picked them, not.
that I picked.
You just said that. It should have been
Yeah,
Dr. Duber who picked.
Well,
Then we would have a committee that was actually for the kids of
Can
North
I just
Kingstown and
say
the parents.
that these are not the names that I had put through the last time. So they did change based on who had applied this time.
You said you picked them.
I did pick them, but then Ken could have rejected them. We had a conversation
I
back
agree.
and forth.
I agree. Like, I think Dr. Duber, you
Could have
didn't need
rejected
to
them.
go along with what she said.
Any
I-
further?
I would like to add to that.
Yep, go ahead.
Because I put forward different names, just like last time. Jen put forward names. We had a conversation back and forth until we came to an agreement of who to put forward for this committee. I was not looking to have an argument with Jen over this. Quite
But
frankly.
that's not about, that's
That's
not
not-
what this is
But
about.
what I'm saying is that, so,
Yeah, it's
so
not about
we had
This is
names.
what's about for what's best for the district.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Not
I-
about arguing with Jen or not,
No,
or who
no,
cares.
and I,
Yeah,
and I
Dr.
don't,
Duber,
and I
please.
don't think that the names that are on the list today, I can't say are not the best, what's best for the district, right? Looking at the names that are there and looking at their reasons, I tried to come to an agreement with her of who is there. It's not everyone that I put forward. Of the three, only one of the people are someone that I had put forward from last time. And the other names did change, and we talked about who we could agree on in putting forward.
Any other
So-
discussion?
Yes, I have a lot of questions.
I did
Yeah.
choose to compromise with
Okay.
the names
Okay,
for this.
as long as you said that. So parents, in May, the numbers you gave us were that 9 parents applied. Of those 9 parents, you called 3 of them in May.
Yes.
How many of those are now being recommended from this go-around?
I believe Dr. Duber just said one.
One.
Okay, okay, thank you, Erin. So, we have 1. So, I'm gonna maybe rephrase her question. What changed from the 2 that you you wanted to put forward back in June? How did those 2, in your opinion now, not meet the standards that you had back in June? How did that change?
I would not say that those two do not meet the standard that I had. I can't say that. I cannot say that the 2 that I recommended last time, any standard change with putting them forward. It just was that in what I was told, to have a conversation and come up with names with the other co-chair, we didn't come to an agreement until we discussed other names.
I just have a policy or procedure question that I'm curious if it's outlined in the policy, because I don't like that we got here, and I do appreciate your willingness to meet with Jen and discuss the numbers, because that did get missed last time. I know we acknowledged that. Is it in the policy, and I've been trying to look, so sorry I couldn't get to it fast enough, that we notify the applicants before it comes to the school committee?
No.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I just the best practice was to, and we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that with, I think, most of our communities. We
Yeah,
call
so
and let
maybe-
them know that their names are being put forward beforehand.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that.
No, I think maybe that's something, I'm just thinking about procedure-wise and like what the
But I
policy
think that we need to
says.
go back to the
This is what
policy.
the
I will
policy
say
says.
that the
Can I quote it?
policy-
No, can I finish my thought? Sorry. What I was saying is that if that seems to be, like, that isn't outlined clearly in the policy of when the folks that apply are notified, and so maybe that's something, if we relook at this policy, we could look at to have clarity for everyone, was all I was gonna say.
Yeah, and I think also too, we need to look at the policy, because I don't like being accused that I'm not following a policy when I'm being told by school committee members that this is what you need to be doing.
You
Because
were
that puts
policy in the
my
policy.
job performance at risk by doing that, and I will leave it at that.
Is there a specific part, Ken, that you,
Specifically,
Want us
that
to
the
look at,
policy
sorry?
states that it's the superintendent's recommendation, and that is what I did last time around.
Yeah.
And now I was told I had to do something different, and I know that if I'm not following policy,
yep,
that impacts my job performance and my evaluation.
Wait, who
And-
told you you have to do something different?
You don't, 'cause
Well, what I'm saying is, I was told last time that it was
not by
being-
Meg and I.
not by being put on there, that I had to then have a conversation, with the co-chair to have to
Yeah.
agree upon who we're putting forward.
Wait,
And I'm
wait,
just
that's,
stating that I think it's important
that's
that
not acceptable.
It
if
says applications to serve on an advisory committee will be reviewed by the advisory committee co-chairs.
And then
Okay.
prospective members of each advisory committee shall be recommended by the superintendent
Right, but
and
the-
shall be voted on by the school committee during one of their regular meetings.
The
So
review was
Dr.
missed.
Dr. Duver
What?
exactly followed what he was supposed to. You didn't like it.
No, he.
The two of
he
you
did
who were on the
not-
policy
he-
subcommittee didn't like it.
He did not call me, Sherry.
He
picked names, and he did because
You
we're
had a
supposed-
conversation.
We
You
did not
highlighted
have a
names. You
conversation.
swore. You don't need to have a
I
conversation.
have stepped in. I've said it over and over again, and I will say it again. That was my misunderstanding, that I thought the highlighted names were names that she was highlighting for me to then look at as if.
I call that
here's
reviewing.
one, here's,
I don't think you did anything wrong, Dr. Duva. You followed the policy. That's reviewing the names, and you both decided not to put it on the school committee agenda when it
Reviewing
should
the
have
names
been.
is having a conversation, and whether we come to an agreement or not, we've had a conversation.
That's not what it says in the
There
policy.
was no conversation in May.
so what we can do is, hearing that there's a difference in the definition of reviewing, that's another thing that I think we should clarify, because,
After the fact.
Just admit that you
I
didn't
thought
want the
reviewing was,
policy at all.
my interpretation, of
Right, but this is interpretation.
Can I finish?
So,
No, I
you
know, and I
cannot.
don't-
It's interpretation. So that doesn't mean my interpretation is different.
Do you think we do this every time
No.
we put people on a subcommittee?
No, and Yes.
We don't.
We review it.
Because we added someone to the budget and finance subcommittee. I never saw that person's name till it went on the agenda.
Well, that's unfortunate, because that's not the way it's supposed
Yeah.
to be.
I know.
Oh, whoops.
So we're not doing it correctly at all. And that's why we should have
Just
went with
taking
what Dr.
chances.
Duver said to begin with.
Okay, so,
Because you don't want people on the
Yeah.
policy
So
subcommittee
I-
who might disagree with you.
That's not true.
I
I don't
just-
want people on the policy
Can I-
advisory committee who have made public statements about not supporting all members of our student body.
can I say
yeah,
something?
Dr. Duva.
Because what we're talking about now also impacts the next agenda item of process.
Yeah,
And
so
I just want to
let's
be
stay
clear,
on
because
here.
the next agenda item is gonna bring up something else that's gonna kind of contradict what we're saying here.
I'm on this policy. I'm on this item, and I still have stuff to say.
I know,
So can I talk?
Yes.
So one thing I'd like to say is, when you called those people, did you then call them back to tell them that their names weren't going to be put forward?
I did not, because I then went out on medical
Did anyone?
leave.
Did anyone have the
So I
courtesy
did-
to give
so
them a courtesy
I-
call?
So I did, but it wasn't until recently.
All three of
In
them?
September, yes.
Okay.
And I called them again between yesterday and today to have that conversation with them.
Okay. As far as the students go, I have voiced this concern before, because policy in our district is extremely important, and it actually deals with a lot of adult content. Chain of command, treatment of outside reports, competitive bidding, purchase procedures, staff security and safety, employee benefits, investigation and administrative leave, personnel hiring policies, APRAS, FERPA. I'm just curious, are you comfortable with the students that were recommended that they will be knowledgeable enough, actually, will any students be knowledgeable enough and have enough life experience, since they are approximately almost 25% of the voting block on this policy, advisory committee, I'm just asking you again, the names that you're putting forward for the students, regardless, because I don't know who they are.
I mean, I guess when you state life experience, we're talking about students that are minors, so life experience only extends to that certain age as a teenager in high school. But when we do put these requests out, we also reach out to our student leadership government, so students that are involved at the high school in student leadership, to also then present their names forward for this. So I do think that these students have a voice that they can. I don't know if every policy they're really going to, like what that involvement would be. For example, recently the GCB, I'm not sure how much involvement students would have. So I think it really depends on the policy that we are going to be reviewing and what experience and knowledge they have to share on the policy.
But they are all going to get a vote, so that I assume they're not just, what are they just going to abstain every single time a vote comes up? Like, for instance, employee benefits or APRAs, things that they really have no experience with? Is there going to be any training for these students to actually understand the impact and the severity of some of these policies that are really, really
So I mean, what I did in my email to the students, I let them know that, you know, we'll be presenting agendas and the policies, and if there's any time they have questions, I'd be happy to review anything with them to provide them information to help them out in this. And that was in my email to them, that anytime it comes forward, for them to ask me questions and what information I can share with them.
Okay, to round out my comments, I just wanted to say that I was opposed to this. Students can be included in meetings where they're stakeholders. I think, as Jen said, anybody can come to these meetings. I think they would be absolutely invited to speak up at those times. I do not feel comfortable having students on something as important as the policy committee that deals with a lot of adult content. And I also am just completely opposed to this entire committee, this entire process from start to finish. I think this has just been very disturbing to me. Not surprising, disturbing. I am very displeased, and I just think it's just really negative for the district the way it all went down. And I will be a no on this.
Okay, any other discussions on this motion? Anything else that you want to add, Dr. Duba?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to building.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion for that, please? Sorry.
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
So I put this back on the agenda. I was not here the last time that the building committee reviewed the names that I put forward to the committee. My understanding is only one of the names at that time was approved, and then there was no discussion on the other. It was held, and so I'm putting that back out there to consider Andrew Sullivan as the other member of the building committee.
Okay, discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, we'll call it. No? Discussion? No discussion?
No, I was just gonna say that I think, Andrew Sullivan, I have nothing, I just wanna make it very clear, I've had nothing against him personally. I was, again, looking at the process of how this was done, and that was my issue as well as this one, was just the process. But I intend to support him as being a member of the building subcommittee.
Okay, any other discussion regarding this one? One discussion point I do have, Ken, is, and I think I had mentioned this to you previously, usually when the committees change, like the committee sees like who's coming off and who's going on, and we have not done that for this one, so.
Okay, we can put that
Or any, actually. So like I think just anytime that like members are rolling off or rolling on, just having that come before the committee so that we have clarity of like how many people are quorum, who's actually on it, etc. So if we could just get a memo updating the committee on like maybe all of the advisory committee's memberships in the future, that would be helpful, just so that I can help the chairs determine quorum. Anything else regarding this one? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. There was not a motion.
Oh, sorry.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion on the motion. Get that second. All right, okay, hearing no discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's all set. And then moving on to C, can I get a motion for that one, please?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, Victor, do we want
Yeah, so you have in front of you the contract for Peregrine. This contract will bring us through stage 3 through completion of both of our projects. It outlines the terms as well as the cost. The original bid approval award that we approved in June still is the total cost of the contract from the summer contract and this contract itself. It actually is a little bit under what the award was.
Can you just clarify for me the process part? Because we did approve something for Peregrine in the spring, and so can you just clarify to me why we need to approve this piece again? I just want to make sure everyone's clear.
Yeah, what was first approved was the award to Peregrine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we came back with an interim contract, and that interim contract was just to cover the work through stage 2.
Got it.
Because that was additional work that we had to do for resubmission. And then now this part of the contract, they just wanted to be very specific, to outline what they were doing for the stage 2 work, and now what they're doing, what the cost would be for the stage 3 through completion. And so we have very clearly stated what it cost us with Peregrine to do stage 2 work, and now what it's going to cost for the remaining, and all of that stays within the original budget that was approved through the award.
Thank you for clarifying that. Can you just clarify for me, in the contract where it talks about September 25 to October 26 for the CIP projects, that is by no means the extent of the CIP projects that we're doing timeline-wise, and so can you clarify for me why that ends on that date?
Yes.
Not instead of like where we have it planned through the 5 years for the CIP projects?
Yeah, so when we put the RFP out, we were not looking for an OPM for the entire completion of the CIP projects, because they are projects that we don't need an OPM for. And so they're going to, what they're doing is overseeing that work that needs to be done for part of the schematic design in stage 3. And then from there on, we will then determine if we need an OPM for any of the separate CIP projects.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification. Other questions regarding this?
And there was an official recommendation from the building subcommittee.
Yes.
It was
this
unanimous.
Yes, thank you.
To recommend to the school committee that we approve it.
Yep. And then it sounds like there's some other ones that will go on a future agenda, correct? I'll clarify with you later.
And just to clarify, the trust and Andrew, you all are.
Yeah, I was fine with the
okay.
contract. Yep.
Thank you to the building subcommittee.
We had that same question at the bills. Did everybody, did all eyes see it that need to see
Everybody
it?
who needs to see it, see it.
Is everybody happy?
Any other questions regarding the document?
I would just add as an aside, having be a member of the building subcommittee and working with Peregrine all summer, that I think we are very fortunate to have them. And they have done a terrific job just picking up where everything left off and getting us, you know, to the point where we are now. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them.
Okay, anything else? Okay.
Motion to approve it?
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, any further
I
discussion?
think we did at the meeting. Anyway.
Hopefully.
Okay, hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to correspondence.
10-1, Matt McCoy, North Kingstown Free Library Community Survey. 10-1, Greg Wallace, health opt-out. 10-1, from a parent regarding the health education policy and how to opt out. 10-2, Kent Dresser, Transportation Appeal, Proposed Resolution. 10-3, Karen Martone, NK School Department Surplus 2025. 10-6, Kent Dresser, School Committee Notification. 10-6, Jennifer Hancock, Private Charter Schools. 10-7, Kent Dresser, Negligent Supervision, Breach of Duty, Discrimination and Custodial Interference. 10-7, Tara Urban, reconsider Pam Panero for Policy Subcommittee, someone who received 6,358 votes in the NK election. 10-7, Gretel McCrory, request for reconsideration, Policy Subcommittee appointment. 10-7, Ruann Sardelli, reconsider Pam Panero for Policy Subcommittee, someone who received 6,358 votes in the NK election. 10-7, Kara Martone, Policy Subcommittee recommendations. 10-7, Abby, last name unknown, reconsider Pam Panero. 10-7, Holly Allen, reconsider Pam for Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Elena Reardon, concern regarding Policy Subcommittee selection process. 10-7, Bob Frechette, reconsider Pam for Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Tiffany Moyo, please reconsider Pam for Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Victoria Bennett, reconsider Pam for Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Steve Raymond, reconsider Pam for Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Jason Bergenstock, urgent reconsideration of appointment Pam R. Panero for Policy Advisory Committee. 10-7, Crystal Simus, Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Jennifer McCooey, North Kingstown School Committee's Policy Subcommittee. 10-7, Heather Murphy, Policy Committee names. 10-7, Brian Odell, Policy Advisory Committee. 10-7, Sarah Leonard, Policy Committee. 10-7, Melissa Fort, Pam for Policy. And 10-7, Ed Renahan, Pam Panero.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.